people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. This past weekend on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, we saw Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy lock horns for the second time. I saw many people asking, why on earth would Amanda fight Heather for a second time if she so easily dominated her the first time? And some might think that this is just a tune-up fight, or it was a tune-up fight en route to a bigger fight.
Maintenance fight, keep busy fight. Some might interpret Serrano versus Hardy 2 that way, but I know better. I know that this fight was about more than that.
Being honest with you, I don't interpret the fight as a tune-up fight or a keep busy fight myself. It was an act of solidarity between two fighters who hail from the same era, the same crop of underpaid, underappreciated women boxers.
The second fight had the exact same aesthetic as the first. Heather Hardy on the receiving end of very short hooks, uppercuts mid-range to inside. Heather's punches being a lot wider than Amanda's. Amanda's hooks being more tight, more compact.
Round after round, you saw Amanda Serrano mid-range to inside getting the better end of the exchanges, and you saw durability, heart and spirit from Heather Hardy in a fight that she was so clearly losing. Many moments in the fight, I thought, this is it. She's going to get stopped. And she didn't.
Heather's penchant for getting drawn out into brawls and wars, showing that world-class punch resistance that she still has at this stage in her career.
This fight wasn't about tuning up or keeping busy en route to a bigger fight. That's not what this fight was about. It was an opportunity for Heather to fight on a big stage, in a big show, perhaps for the last time. One last hoorah in what was an act of solidarity between fighters who hail from the same era, the same crop of fighters. That's what it was.
Heather wasn't going to get an opportunity like this just climbing up the ranks, playing the alphabet route.
She's getting long in the tooth, and time really isn't on her side. Thus, Amanda,
she extended that olive branch, that opportunity.
The most people, even what are very big fans of Amanda Serrano, perhaps they don't correspond with her as much as some others and don't know her on a personal level, but I can say wholeheartedly that she's actually one of the most giving boxers I've ever come across.
They're struggling to understand why she chose to fight Heather for a second time.
May not seem like an act of solidarity while she's beating the brakes off Heather Hardy during the fight, but affording her the fight, that was the act of solidarity.
There's no reason why you should not be proud of yourself. You went out like a fucking warrior. I was screaming. I was like, oh my god. And I told everybody it's going to go the distance. She's not going to get stopped because she's a fucking warrior. I knew it. You did amazing. Thank you. Be so proud of yourself and so proud of your career. Thank you, sweetie. I'm so happy for you. Okay? Congratulations. Thank you.
Any feel-good moments after the fight, but pressing matters. Baumgardner, who was commentating that night for DAZN, she was in attendance, and we all know she wants to get Amanda Serrano in the ring. She wants to be in a big fight, a very big fight. Amanda Serrano did not seem that receptive to a showdown with Alicia.
Now, this past week, it was announced that she had recently inked a pact with the PFL for their Super Fight series, and that perhaps beyond this year, she won't be boxing.
Fighter that holds 2 Guinness World Records, a 7-division champion, and a current reigning undisputed champion may perhaps feel that they've done all there is to do, that while there are other fights still out there, there are always going to be other fights still out there, and I feel like Amanda just wants to move on and do other things at this point, that she feels after 14 years in the sport of boxing, the ups, the downs,
and everything in between,
she is ready for something new. That is, she is ready to dedicate herself fully to something new, not toggling back and forth between boxing and mixed martial arts. In her own words, she stated, "I'm in a great place right now. I have amazing managers, big sponsors, and just signed with a good solid MMA company. Jordan handles my career since day one. He will sit with the team and advise me on what's best for me next."
Cage, please.
I don't imagine that Alicia Baumgardner is at all pleased to hear that Maybe Amanda don't fight her. That's a fight that Alicia has been very vocal about, that if she can't get Katie in the ring, maybe she can get Amanda.
I'm a big fan of both of these fighters, and being honest with you, I'd prefer they don't fight. Call me crazy, call me biased, call me what you want to call me, but I'm too big a fan of these fighters, and I know that somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. That would be heart-wrenching for me to see.
Excellent fight that this might be. Not that I think it's going to happen, because I don't think it will. Amanda is not in a place here today where she's so strapped for cash, she has to continue fighting in fights that perhaps she doesn't want to be in.
She's doing all right.
I feel like after 14 years, given everything she's already done so far, she has earned the right to decide what she wants to do exactly, how she wants to do it, and some people are going to understand that, some people aren't.
Isn't that always the case in the sport of boxing?
What we might be looking at is that in the near future, Amanda Serrano will dedicate herself fully to the sport of mixed martial arts, vacate all the alphabet titles she's got at featherweight, at which point those titles will be redistributed, dispersed to that division's top contenders by way of the alphabets. I could see Sky Nicholson picking up one, Raven Chapman picking up another.
Kara Sardingstall, Sophia Leash, Ebony Jones.
Silver lining for today's featherweight division is that the new era, the new crop, the new wave of featherweights, they're already here, and they look promising.
I feel like Amanda's very close to making her exit from the sport of boxing. Some people are going to like that, some people aren't, but after 14 years...
Fairly confident she's earned the right to do that, to decide what's next for her.
Congratulations on racking up another win.
Men's super bantam and lightweight news. Naoya Inoue would get destroyed by Gervonta Davis, says assistant trainer Kenny Ellis.
Perhaps, but if he did, are we intended to give Gervonta Davis credit for fighting someone so much smaller than he is?
Possible mega showdown continues to simmer. Kenny Ellis, Davis's assistant trainer, laughs whenever Inoue's name is brought up in the same breath as Gervonta Davis. Tank is too big and too strong, explained Ellis during an interview with Mill City Boxing. Davis, in many ways, has rolled through his competition.
What competition? A journeyman in Gamboa, a nobody in Isaac Cruz, a retard in Rolly Romero, or a novice in Ryan Garcia?
Baltimore Star violently ended the night of Ryan Garcia, brutally stopping his man in the 7th round earlier this year. And while that might have been a high-profile win for Gervonta Davis, and it was, because Ryan Garcia, like him or not, he's a very popular guy. Don't confuse popularity with ability. Don't confuse Ryan with a Devin Haney or a Shakur Stevenson.
A Lopez or a Loma, because that's what he ain't.
By and large, Calvin Ford instructs Davis to go out and punish his opponents. While he's great in his own right and essentially cemented himself, he knew he has, as a future Hall of Famer, Ellis gives him 0% chance to be even competitive with Davis. He can't beat no damn Tank. He's too small. Tank would destroy that kid.
What I will say is that, in fairness, Inoue's side of it, his promoter, he played with the idea of Inoue one day moving up as high as lightweight. And the name of Gervonta Davis was brought up. We talked about that here on the channel.
Truth. Even though Kenny Ellis addressed it and talked about it, gave his thoughts, Davis versus Inoue is not a realistic fight. We're not on the eve of a Davis versus Inoue fight. Naoya Inoue himself has no immediate plans to leave the super bantamweight division because he just got there.
He himself said he plans on staying at super bantam for a while.
His manager, Hideyuki Ohashi, has confirmed that they will next target the undisputed super bantamweight world title fight versus Marlon Tapales. He added that Inoue will stay in the division after this and potentially defend the belts against Jonriel Casimero, the former WBO bantamweight champion, and Luis Neri, 2-division champion of Mexico. Inoue does have unfinished business with those two gentlemen, those two fighters in particular. Naoya Inoue and Jonriel Casimero were supposed to fight in a unification fight right when the pandemic shut everything down, and that spoiled those plans.
I won't begrudge Naoya Inoue staying at super bantamweight a while longer, especially since he just got there. This is arguably the most high-profile win of his career and another signature win for the monster of Japan.
Would relish the opportunity to see him beat the brakes off the peroxide pugilist of the Philippines, John Riel Casimiro. I just really don't like that guy. I don't fucking like him. He talks too goddamn much.
He's got this thing where he likes to call Naoya Inoue a turtle, but he's the fucking slowpoke that ended up losing his title due to using a sauna.
For those not aware, in the United Kingdom, you're not allowed to use a sauna in order to cut weight. It's supposed to be a safety provision, health concerns, and all that jazz. And that's how John Riel Casimiro ended up losing the WBO title to Paul Butler. He didn't lose it in the ring.
He was stripped and it went to Paul.
Now campaigning as a super bantamweight in the same division as Naoya Inoue, beyond the Marlon Tapales unification match. Yet another undisputed fight for Naoya Inoue. A fight I give him a good chance to win, even though Marlon, he is a formidable fighter. Beyond that fight, there lies a John Riel Casimiro fight that could go down in Japan, and a Luis Neri fight that could happen in America. Veteran boxing scribe Steve Kim says, I asked Bob Arum if there was any chance of Naoya Inoue ever performing again in America, and his reply was yes, I promise. He'll be back at least once next year.
Banzai!
You have to figure that because Luis Neri is banned from fighting in Japan, you know, they're sticklers for the rules. And I haven't forgotten what happened years ago between Luis Neri and Shinsuke Yamanaka. You know, the first time out, Luis Neri tested positive for a banned substance.
Weight cutting agent.
World Boxing Council might have given him a pass for that, but the Japanese Boxing Commission didn't take too kindly. That was the first fight. In the second, he ended up blowing the weight, lost the title on the scales.
Having beaten Shinsuke Yamanaka both times in both fights quite dishonorably, the Japanese Boxing Commission decided that moving forward, Luis Neri would not be allowed to box in Japan.
Think about that. Think about this. What Uncle Bob told Steve Kim that Naoya Inoue would return to America at least once next year. That could be for the Luis Neri fight.
You think about it. He can have the undisputed title fight with Marlon Tapales in Japan, make a defense of those titles against Casimiro,
Also in Japan.
make a return trip to America to take on Luis Neri in Las Vegas, because he's not a stranger to Vegas. He's fought there 2 times before. He has fought abroad at least 4 times.
2 times in Las Vegas, once in Carson, California, and in the United Kingdom. There are not a lot of fighters that have Naoya Inoue's marquee value, his domestic following, that would travel abroad because they really don't need to. He can make his money right there at home, but he does. And that's what people like about him,
Yeah.
that he's a throwback fighter.
Gotta understand, bantamweights and super bantamweights, they don't make that much money as it is, let alone what Naoya Inoue is making, the level of celebrity he has, and that he's traveled abroad at least 4 times, having that celebrity but not needing to. I think that says a lot about him as a fighter.
He's got enough on his plate right there at super bantamweight where he just arrived, that entertaining a Gervonta Davis fight in the future, the near future, or the distant future is a redundancy. It's not even necessary. Finally, in men's welterweight news, more from the former unified welterweight champion Keith Thurman, who says he isn't worried about Jaron Ennis. Like, I ain't beat up no Philly boys before. Referencing his win years ago to Philadelphia's own Danny Garcia, I will say that Jaron Boots Ennis is a very different proposition than Danny was.
He's still climbing. I've been up there, Thurman told Blue Blood Sports TV. He's still climbing. I've been up there.
While Thurman has remained one of the welterweight division's elite, it appears only a matter of time before Ennis joins him. The slick switch hitter has looked practically untouchable, mercilessly stopping normally durable contenders. And to say here today that Keith Thurman is one of the welterweight elite seems a bit of a far-fetched statement. He's definitely a familiar face, one of the somebodies, though it's not necessarily because of anyone that he beat or anything that he's done. Not anything in recent memory. When we think about Keith Thurman's most solid victories,
Right.
his most solid wins,
Right.
we're talking about fights from approximately anywhere in between 4 to 6 years ago.
7, actually.
Sean Porter fight, which was a thoroughly entertaining fight. That fight way back there in 2016. Believe it or not, that was 7 years ago.
Wow.
It's been 6-7 years since that fight. The Sean Porter fight of 2016. The ho-hum Danny Garcia decision in 2017. Keith's most solid victories in this division.
They were a long time ago.
To call him elite here today in 2023 seems a far-fetched statement. The last time that we saw him over a year ago, opposite the ring, Mario Barrios, while he won the fight, he couldn't close the show. Ask yourself a question.
What?
Would that same Mario Barrios be able to to go the distance with Jaron Boots Ennis, who we just mentioned? Would he be able to go the distance with Terrence Crawford? What does it say about Keith Thurman's eliticism here today that he was unable to dispatch Mario Barrios, who was dispatched by Gervonta Davis, a 135-pound fighter up there at 140?
I'm not joshing, I'm being honest. I don't know that we can call Keith Thurman here today an elite welterweight when it's been a very long time since he exhibited any eliticism.
Keith Thurman continued, like, I ain't beat up no Philly boys before. It ain't nothing new to me.
Keith's got a unique problem.
I think he does.
Fucked.
I think that even if either Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. were made available to him, Keith Thurman himself, having not fought in over a year's time,
Think he's supposed to be fighting Ugas very soon?
Terrence Crawford has to wait for Errol Spence Jr. to make his decision as to whether or not he wants to run it back. Does he want an immediate rematch? But if we put our thinking caps on and we hypothesize, postulate, let's just say Errol don't activate the rematch clause.
Right.
And let's just say that Terrence is available to fight Keith. If you were to afford Keith Thurman that fight under these current circumstances, he doesn't stand a chance.
None.
Not a shot in the dark. Having not fought in over a year's time, he would share a similar fate to the fate that Errol Spence Jr. experienced.
Doesn't look like he's going to get Crawford anyway, but that's just saying that you could afford him the biggest and best fight that the welterweight division has to offer, and he isn't ready for it.
Let alone a fight with a high-risk, low-reward guy in Jaron Boots Ennis. Keith Thurman can say what he wants to the media. He can say what he wants to whoever's willing to listen. The reality of it is,
I don't think you can consider Keith Thurman an elite welterweight anymore. When's the last time he exhibited any of that eliticism?
when is the last time that Keith Thurman did anything elite?
When?
His fall from grace has been so steep that Clarissa Shields has grown comfortable enough over time to challenge him to a fight, to a boxing match. What does that say about Keith Thurman here today that a woman has grown comfortable enough to challenge him?
Disrespect him publicly.
He's in a pickle, and he needs to get active, he needs to get busy, but that's been the situation for a long time when it comes to Keith. Now, rumor has it that he may be facing Yordenis Ugas sometime this year, later on this year, but as it stands, there's no fight date, there's no official announcement.
If he does end up fighting Ugas, he's reduced to fighting once a year. He fought once last year, only once, and only once this year.
It's not looking good for Keith Thurman. He may be one of the more familiar fighters, one of the more familiar names at this weight, but that just paints a bigger target on his back because a lot of these guys at this weight, they want a familiar face. They want a familiar name, the platform to catapult their career into the next stratosphere, battering Keith Thurman if they can actually get him in the ring.
Probably can't.
Of course not, but that creates a problem for Keith because in order to fight in meaningful and relevant fights, to make relevant purses, you have to fight relevant fighters.
That comes with risks attached.
If he does end up fighting Ugas, a former champion like himself, that would be one of the safer choices out there for Keith Thurman, but what does he do beyond that?
Does he even stay at welterweight?
He does. Jaron Ennis won't be far behind. He's going to pursue a fight with Keith Thurman. If they both end up holding titles at the same weight,
He's going to come after him.
so would Montestanionis is in position to become WBA champion once the WBA title goes vacant.
He's going to come after him.
Keith can say what he wants, but it's not looking good.